Welcome. Before we have a check-in, could you have a moment of silence? Remember, this is a laboratory in entering of the zone. Performance. I know there's a long Quaker tradition which faculty meeting begins with a moment of silence. And silence can be not noisy or in presence. I'm doing that. I've never done this before in 58 years. To begin a class, even though a faculty meeting begins with a moment of, in our Quaker tradition, let's have a moment of silence. Right? To be in the zone. I won't say why I have not done this in this laboratory, but this is the first time. Let's begin with a moment of silence, because that's a prelude to entering the room in presence. Not to be present, presence. So when you check in, you can check in two ways. I pointed out last time, there are two technologies of consciousness, which are one I mark with single strokes in terms of logic, as a mind operating process, it's a code, it's a grammar, it's a technology of consciousness where we live. And our great first traditions, first philosophy across the planet, why they go forth? Because there's something to get to being, to reality, to what's first, to use a generic term. That's a field of reality and being. That requires a transition from a derivative, everyday way of technology to a deeper technology of presence that has not been clearly seen. In other words, if you use the word logos for the light of reason, as Plato is saying, that's the form of all forms, that's the ground floor, that's the source of all, that's infinite, that's presence. And in the technology we're doing here in the Vedic science, it's called first philosophy is first science. It goes back to ancient Greek, Aristotle. He calls it metaphysics, is not a good name for it. Ontology is a better name. What is, as I mentioned last time, ontology is a science of being. And being is reality, the ground floor. And it's infinite. And it has its own language and code and grammar. And that's really what the first philosophy, first science is seeking to go from a derivative form of intelligence and language and thought and life and experience, because we are as a mind. The technology we're using shapes our reality. And if we're minding with malware, we're going to have a life that isn't coherent and connected. And that means we're disconnected. So Vedic science is gaining the technology of the literacy of the language of the zone, the language of presence. So there are two kinds of silence. You can shut up. That's where the Simon and Garfunkel song. Very interesting. It's right between the two, the sounds of silence. Listen to the sound of silence. The two silent, Quaker silence. You can be in the zone, deep silence, or I'm trying to quiet my mind. So every word we're using has a double entendre. There are two languages. The language that we live in and know and we're great at, everyday language. The Google space, information, talk about feelings, emotions, describe it. We're good at that. But there's a deeper language of presence, in which the words there are not talking about something, it's being. That's strange. It's a lot of preliminary. So let's have a moment of silence, because that's where you check in, okay? So I'm not just looking for attendance. I'm just a ritual, a rite of passage into presence. So let's begin with a moment of silence. We won't do this every time. This is just one time we're going to have silence. Unless you require a moment of silence to begin, just to center. So, silence for a moment. Thank you. And that deep silence is a space of Om, Brahman, being. Stepping back from everyday chatter of noise, right, which is extremely hard to do. From that place to meditation. Meditation is profound. It's a profound technology. People don't get it. Why? Because all of the wisdom of the planet, the first philosophy, our scriptures, our wisdom and enlightenments are poured into the space of everyday information. It's informationized. Talk about it. I'll describe, right? Here's the Bhagavad Gita. I'll talk about it. If you're blowing it, if you're informationizing it, objectifying it as the content of information, it's an addiction. And Arjuna is broken down in his life, and he's a stand-in for everyday humans. It's a deep evolutionary moment. We humans are great. We're wonderful. we're source sapiens on our way to becoming who we are. And this Vedic science, Veda means knowledge, wisdom, enlightenment. And it's a yoga technology. Not yoga, but yoga. And so how do we cultivate the language to find ourselves in the zone? That's what this lab is seeking to hold a space for. So with that, check in, please. And if your name is not, if you believe you're enrolled, but your name is not on the list, add it at the bottom, print it for me, and I'll check in with the registrar to find out why not. Because after our last meeting, several of you approached me and I made changes, and I hope it shows up here. Is it? I know I covered so much. It was a trailer last time, right? To give you a sense of why this is a laboratory. It's a performance class. You've got to show up. And did you have a sense of the flow of the semester, the texts and so forth? Or should I say some more about that? A little more? We are granted then that, and I'll put up, the hologram, the space where we live, the space of informationized thinking, this technology, and then I put up the space of Om, the space of Logos, the space of being, the space, whatever name you use for the infinite, presence, the presence of mind. And I'm inviting us to think about, when I see this space, with the infinite space of presence, can I locate myself there without all the information and CV that I process myself with? So, if that's the case, then I could place the Gita here and read it here where we're good at that. Or we could see, is this the Gita here? The song of God, the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, the song of Source. So all the difference. So every word we use in the everyday language that we're across the planet that the human family is great at, every word here has a deeper analog meaning. So we've got to go from English to Zenglish. Right? So I know English, I have French, German, all the languages, right? Hebrew, right? We know that we're good. I know 5 languages, you might say. But do you know the language of presence? So using English, for example, every word in English, single bracket, has a deeper space holding it, which the double bracket. Try it out. As we open this text, it's going to be it's going to be Krishna, the voice of Om, coaching Arjuna, the everyday person, who's fallen apart in a breakdown of his life on the battlefield. He's having a typical midlife crisis. His worldview is crashing. His place that he lived, his ethics, his life, his nobility as a great warrior leader of his people, to crash on the battlefield in the middle of at the moment the conch shells are blowing and it's time to charge, he falls apart. That's the opening of the text. So just an alert that this may be confusing. So here's what we're going to do with this semester in the workouts. And this is the athletic conference room, right? Everyone is going to perform. We're going to study the Gita, the first 7 or 8 chapters. Every line is a sutra, a formula, like a theorem in geometry, right? So it needs to be decoded. You can code it there, which most people do, and you don't get the real power of the medicine of Krishna's voice. So we're going to begin in a moment and open up the text and jump in, and we'll see how quickly you're going to have to, if you didn't do a course in philosophy before, just basic philosophy, to understand, say, Plato's, Socrates, Aristotle, the birth of reason and rationality and the language of being and becoming and all that, that's going to come up in our face right away in the beginning, in the first remarks of Krishna. So I'm going to have to almost do a kind of quick sidebar with you to make sure you got that, you got that. I got the baby ontology. That mind, soul is soul and body is body, Krishna is going to say, but Socrates is saying that too. Because remember, this is not just, we're not going to put Vedic philosophy in a silo. We all have silos come from here. But when you go into the deep space, It's infinitely one. It's a continuum. That means all of our great scriptures and traditions and teachings are in that space. And they're hanging out. They're not melted down. They're distinct. The Judaic tradition, the Christian tradition, the Muslim tradition, the scientific, all of these narrative traditions, which are great, in silos and disciplines and ages, and ancient, medieval, that's all erased here. We're all in the commons of the source. They're adjacent. Socrates is hanging out with Descartes. Descartes is hanging out with Plato. Plato's hanging out with Jesus. Jesus is talking with Moses. Magdalene is there. They're all in that space. Once you start to deconstruct, let's use the word deconstruct, you'll see that what's going on in our everyday mind maps and literacy, great as it is, and the packaging, they're being constructed by us. Whereas when you enter into this space, it melts that away. It's deconstructed. And that's part of postmodern intelligence of deconstruction. Postmodern deconstruction. What are you deconstructing? Any narrative can be taken apart, deconstructed. That's ancient wisdom. Meditative intelligence deconstructs predicative mind. Predication is the name of the technology of thinking here. To think is to predicate. This comes from Aristotle, for example. It's all across the planet. What's the deep logic of thinking? Single bracket thinking. To think is to predicate. Snow is white. Lights are on. I'm a citizen. Whatever it is, we're predicating. We're taking our units of words and putting them together, to make sense. And when we have sense, it pictures the world. And I can say, it's a fact. Sun is shining. It's true. Sun is, and so forth. That's all going on. It's magnificent. I feel, I'm hurt, I'm angry. That's all predication. Human beings interpret and make our worlds. This is maybe news to you. Our minding, technology, we don't know what the technology, but we are in it. And when we say we're in a matrix, that's another way of putting it. A logic is a fundamental technology that is so deep, it's shaping it, allowing us to think and to have a meaning and to have a worldview and a belief system. And all of these narratives and wide-ranging narratives and scriptures can be accommodated and are being accommodated in that vast, profound technology. To think is to predicate. That's what, or to think is to think about it. Content, the content is there. Whereas if you're able to shift the codes and invert from this is first, its derivative, it turns out, to this is first, where Krishna is speaking from, you got to flip it. You got to say, wow, how do I go from, I didn't even know the technology that I was lodged and situated within that gave me the power to think and to have a will and to have beliefs and judgments and feelings and experience. So to think is to interpret. This is huge. We tend to think in common sense. When I came into Guest 101, and there's a beam there, and there are tables, and there are other individuals around. No, you're doing this. You're participating. In advanced physics, it's called, when the observer effect after Heisenberg, whoa, the presence of the observer affects the observer. That's ancient wisdom. The observer, this is huge for centuries. If you read Kant, he realizes what shows up in experience is a function of the wiring of the thinker. What appears is filtered through us, so you're going to find it in the content. Cause and effect. One and many. Quality, quantity, relation, figure, motion, all. It's wired for space and time. We're wired as space and time. So things are going to show up in space and time. We are the condition. In other words, we are as we mind. That's hard to get, but that's like one of the headlines in the history of thought, East and West. That was all Buddha's breakthrough when he became enlightened. Why are people suffering? Existence is suffering. And he wanted to figure it out. He gave up his kingdom to go do the research as a Bryn Mawr Haverford student. To figure out, and she said, I want to find out why human, and he saw, and the enlightenment was he saw, and this is the Four Noble Truths of Buddha. We're making analogs in the global space to open this up. And the Four Noble Truths of Buddha, that means global truths. Existence is suffering. It has a cause. It didn't have the single bracket. How are we using our mind? It's malpractice. We're objectifying ourselves and making ourselves into an entity, and we're not a thing. We're a self. So we've got to let go of that. That's the third noble truth. We have a choice. We don't have to think this way. We can rehabilitate our mind operating process. How? By practicing mindfulness, which is what yoga technology is, to rehabilitate into a deeper Buddha language. And then you're liberated. And that self here is no self. So you hear Buddha teaching the strange things which I can't get. That there's a no self. The self is no self. Buddha calls it shunyata, emptiness, zero. The word zero, shunya. Shunyata. It's not to be, it's to be one. Aristotle, for example. An entity, that's me. No, it's nothing. No thing. And this gets very close to Sat. I'm jumping around. Jean-Paul Sartre's great breakthrough. We're not something, we're nothing. So his great work, être et néant, being a nothingness. When you drop all your information, but you're there as a variable, you got to face the emptiness of your existence. That's Sartre, but that's not Buddha. Emptiness for Sartre, which is the lights are out, there is no meaning, there is nothing given. We're naked out in the world, and we've got to somehow make ourselves. That's Sartre. Buddha's nothing is the infinite overflow of the zone of being, where everything is interflow and interconnected in a fractal grammar. And you've got to learn how to surf the Buddha language in order to have well-being. But that self cannot be named. I'm giving examples. It's going to haunt us here too with Krishna, right? So remember, this is Vedic thought in a global context. That's a better name for the lab. A global context means we're going to bring in Socrates, we're going to bring in Descartes, we're going to bring in Sartre and Heidegger and Lao Tzu and Magdalene and Gnosis and all that's here. And when it helps us, you'll see how quickly once we start reading, wow, it's going to hit us very fast. You're going to need to have the history of thought and deep ontology, which is all back from Socrates to us, to be able to read this. So I have some coaching to do. Okay? So to resume that point, for about 6-7 weeks, we're going to be laboring. So you've got to have the text, this translation, please, because the way it says it's text intensive. We want to decode the text and to gain the literacy of being intercode. We've got to be dexterous in intercoding, here or here, and watch the language. And the more we receive so this is code education. That's the way to put it, right? Is this the human here in our common sense technology, or is the human deeper than me? Am I? When I say I am, when Descartes stepped out and said I am, he said, what I am, I don't know, but I am. It was a great moment for history. But if you don't know that he was flirting with the code shift, but you just read it here, as we all do. When someone speaks that language, we download it and translate it to where we are. That's the point about we interpret. Experience is interpreted by our wills. We're voting on it collectively in our community of shared believers, in a belief system. We're making our worlds with our minds. If you want to speak of the observer effect. So hopefully by the time, session after session, checking in presence, we're getting more tuned in to the literacy of crossing the codes. So I'll ask you then, as we approach the midterm time, to do a meditative writing on perhaps one of the themes of the Gita. User-friendly. For example, Krishna is going to teach Arjuna, who's a warrior, right? Yogic action. I may ask you to write a 3-page meditation in your voice. What did you get? What would you say if you had to coach someone on the mystery of yogic action, ordinary action? We know that. I am walking. I am sitting. I am acting. From an ego-based point of view. But there's another kind of action that Krishna is going to coach Arjuna. You got to let go of that in order to. It's not I am running. It's different. Who's the subject? Because if you treat yourself as a subject and subjects and objects and your attributes that make up you, right, that's where you're living. That's why Arjuna broke down, and we have to see why. Arjuna collapsed in a midlife crisis that everyone's going to face. So I'll ask you to write a 3 to 5 page reflection. It should be great in your own voice. How did you make sense of that? To play out your sense of the intercode. Dialectic is a good word. Interplay. How How, in other words, Krishna is speaking one form of technology. Arjuna is in another place. What's up with that? How is Arjuna going to understand Krishna? It's going to come out right in the beginning. How do you, because Arjuna is going to translate to the only language he knows, into his code, his form of interpretation. And he's going to blow it. He's going to say, Krishna, you're messing with my mind. You're confusing me. Is it thought or is it action? Which one? You say first, knowledge is better than action, and yet you're saying pick up and fight, Arjuna. You're asking him to do, and Arjuna say, which one is it? Is it action or is it, is it theory or practice? Is it thought? Is it thought, talk or walk? He thinks it's a dualism. Arjuna does. And he's challenging Krishna. Tell me which one. Don't give me this ambiguous stuff. You're messing with him. So it's brilliant. Arjuna is a great fighter, right? He's challenging Krishna. He's inquiring. Socrates would love that. When you realize you don't know, when he collapses, I don't know, I'm done. On the battlefield, I'm melted down. That's the humility that the student has to reach to say, I thought I knew, but it's not working. And I realize that I don't have it. I've got something is missing. Krishna, help me. So that's when this kicks in. So the midterm, after the midterm, when you come back, your paper will be due right on the first day after midterm, just to give you a sense of timing. And you'll turn that in on the first day. And then we'll set up midterm conferences. It'll be all set up in an Excel sheet for you to sign up in groups of 5 for a midterm deep dialogue up in my office, upstairs, hour and a half, where it's going to be a party atmosphere, right, to have fun together. It's not going to be an oral exam. It's much more demanding. It's going to be jazzing live improv to see how are you getting it. And those turned out to be great moments, because in a big class like this, you can't really do that. When you're in a group of 5 and you've had a chance to be together and figure out what's troubling me in this journey, what's giving me the most difficulty in this, learning the technology of yoga, right? And you come up and we work out on that together. That's a midterm conference. So I've got your paper, I've got your midterm conference. I then put those together and give you feedback, coaching feedback. I don't give you grades. That comes at the end. And then when we come back, we're going to go into, I had the book last time, the Brahma Sutra, commentary by Shankara, one of the great minds of this tradition. It's called Advaita Vedanta, non-dual. Advaita means dual. Advaita means non-dual. Vedanta is the science we're dealing with. And that's going to just blow us away. But what we will have done by the 7th, 8th week of midterm times is going to give us enough orientation to take on an amazing moment, of entering into the sutras, the formulae of Brahma, which is a name for being. Brahman, if you put Yahweh, Allah, Tao, whatever name for the infinite, Brahman. We're in the Brahman tradition. Brahman means the infinite source. And Brahman manifests in forces of Brahman, Vishnu, Shiva. It begins to unfold. Right? The blue zone, so to speak. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Who is Vishnu? The conservator of the universe. Who is Shiva? The Lord of dance. Often in the images you see Lord Shiva in the dance posture holding the drum and the flame of what? Process, change, becoming. Lord Vishnu is being, steady, holding it together. Shiva, moving, changing. It's huge. European philosophy began with that. Heraclitus is saying it's all flow. Being is flowing. It's never the same. There is no same. It's only flow. There's no one river. You can't step in the same river twice. There is no same river. It's only flow. And Parmenides thinks being is infinite. Brahman is. It can't become, because it can only become what you're not. And there is no not. For the infinite, the becoming is an illusion. All is wins. This isn't wins. It always isn't. So already we see the matrix setting up for centuries of unfolding from before Socrates to contemporary culture. Is modernism? We hold these truths to be self-evident, all from reason? Or is it poly? No, it's different. Jacques Derrida, postmodern. No, we went from modernism, which is our fundamental root, to postmodern, which is it's difference, it's poly, it's many narratives. You follow? Centuries, 2,500 years, back and forth between is or isn't, identity or difference, one or many, mono or poly. But they're both going on within the monopoly. Get it? Monopoly of the technology. And so we're going to go to Shankara, and that's going to just be, we're building up for that. And then we're going to go on through Shankara, Advaita Vedanta, for about, until we're getting close to the April now, middle of April. We've got about 2-3 weeks left for May, and we're going to go into Aurobindo. We're going to come into the contemporary, one of the geniuses of philosophy, world philosophy, Aurobindo, where he's going to go beyond what the tradition said before of Shankara and say, dude, Brahman is flowing, it's process, it's evolutionary. And the human being has to rise to an Ubermensch, a higher mind, to live the divine life and so forth. And Aurobindo was also an alternative to Gandhi. Aurobindo was in jail too in terms of the liberation of India from the British. And Gandhi was trying to liberate the British out and dealing with the external liberation. And Aurobindo saying, no, until we liberate within, we're not going to be free people. In other words, until we face the code issue, Aurobindo, right? You're still going to be carrying the colonized mind. And to get to a colonization, it's not just a matter of the external intruder, but the internal intruder of how are you using your mind? And think of the USA. The founding, keep that in mind. Is the founding in the predication, or were those, founding Declaration of Independence tapping into the zone for that moment with all of their difficulties and inconsistencies and human inadequacies? Could there be, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Think about that. That we're endowed by Brahman, source, God, nature's God, with unalienable rights of life, liberty, well-being. The second remark. We form governments to protect that. It's the third. Wow. We the people. And fourth, if at any time that government turns to tyranny and malpractice and is not protecting those human, it's our duty, hard as it is, and conservative as we are, to question it and institute a new form that does indeed protect the people. So to read the opening of the Declaration, I'm just trying to show that this is not ancient stuff. We have to face this now, right? Have we done? So when we say, come across the ocean, did we deal with how we're minding and the technology of how, or did we bring that with us? Let's get the British out of here, right? That's not it. That's half the work. The next part is, can we now become we the people? Have we done that? Because things don't look good. Anyway, so we'll end up with Aurobindo. And your final project, by then you realize I can't just do a project the normal way that we're used to and we're brilliant about. That's why we got into Heaven and Brahma. We're good at this. But now, can you begin to dance in the space of the literacy experimentally of the yoga technology? How would you design in any field, any major that you're in? If you're in theoretical physics and you'd like to show how, beyond Einstein, in the quantum field of non-locality and entanglement, that I can have an exploration as a theoretical physicist of the unified field, of the GUT, the grand unified field, and connect it in a dialogue with what we studied and did in the lab together. For example, in psychology major, say, wow, if you look at Jung after Freud, and Jung is talking about the collective unconscious, not the subconscious of Freud, but the transpersonal person. Whoa, what's that? That sounds like what Krishna is doing, transperson. The person is transpersonal. The person is not, transpersonal doesn't mean you know a person. The real person is not the objectified psyche, but the one who is integrated, who is tapping into yoga, by the way, Jung was, of the anima and the animas, the male and the female energies and everyone, until we bring it together in a union, right? Because in the space of this is yoga is union, finding the unum, the right? You could write a great exploration of the psychology of the self. Economics, major, money, capitalism, money. What's that? It's, logos, logonomics, or egonomics. You could, and you may get the Nobel Prize, for trying to clarify the language of wealth, of presence. That all the great teachers are saying, that's the wealth, that's overflow, that's not that scarcity, that's abundance. So if you can tap that money, it's not just a Bitcoin, right? That would be a whole new way to deal with Karl Marx's attempt to get to a just form beyond capitalism and feudalism and so forth. And you're looking for something that's equitable for the human life. You could do a brilliant, these are all Nobel Prize. Suppose you're a medical student and you want to go into medicine. It says, there's a lot of psychosomatic issue going on with the mind and body split and dualism. Is it psychosomatic? Psycho is body, soma is body. Psychosoma. It says a huge percentage of our illnesses are psychosomatic. But if the mind and body and soul and body are not the same dimension, how can you do that? Is there integral medicine? Can yoga technology help us to understand the whole person and heal the whole person? You might. I'm just giving examples, right? Can AI be in yoga? That'd be a great question. In quantum computing, is quantum computing lodged within the 0-1 logic of the binary logic? Mechanical, which is AI. So we're living in AI space. That's another way of putting it. Wow. Not just computers. We are computerizing our intelligence. But is it organic and omganic, for example? Solve the computer question. Can computer become a person in sacred space and flow with Brahman in boundless awareness, awakened awareness? Can a computer be enlightened? Could solve that problem. I know it sounds like, that's beyond me. I'm just saying it's exciting what you could do. And I just want to unleash unbridled creativity because you people are bright and know it. There's a lot of wisdom in this room. You know what I mean? That's the finale, okay? Get excited. Start thinking, what would you like to do? A project. Just 12, 15 page in length, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be pages that way. What form of intelligence? Because there are multiple intelligences. We know that. Some people are more analytical and left brain, and some are more right brain, intuitive, artistic, see, right? And some can be integral. You follow? We're open to different forms of demonstration. In other words, I want to see, are you getting this? How are you appropriating our journey into yoga technology as we say goodbye, right? You can test out down the road as your life unfolds, okay? Show how you've really experimentally gotten the absorbing in a way that's comfortable for you, that you can really express. Suppose you're a musician. That would be a great one. It's almost vibration. Brahman is infinite vibration. And what's it? Sound. Almost sound, infinite sound. The sound of silence. So you can do a video of lyrics and perform it, so that the listener will say, wow, you just feel it, I'm giving you examples, right? You can get excited about what is your favorite form of creativity? What form? Okay, enough. Is that okay? You follow? Cool. Okay. So let me just keep up for us. And if I do this in blue, it's not because I'm making a political statement here. Okay. Welcome to presence. And you can say, Gangadine, this is a little, I don't see any information here. Where am I? Right? Who am I? Where am I? Am I here? And if you are, why is it when is there any, not information, but are there any axioms or theorems I can get from just that? Brahman, the field of Brahman, Om. Allegedly, anything we can say or do or have in all of these worlds couldn't be without that. So imagine just for a moment the evolutionary stages of human development. Well, to think is to predicate. Just bear with me, indulge me for a moment. To think, we're predicators here. The thinker, and the screen, and we're thinking, and we have reason, and so forth. And here we go. There are no codes, no code markers. But then we look at these great first philosophy, and they're all saying, go deeper, not here. Go deeper. Whether you call it Yahweh, Allah, Brahman, Om, Tao, Shunyata, we're getting teachings here without any codes that there's something going on at a deeper level. We don't have this yet. And then you begin to say, what's going on here? Because they're all trying to get to the infinite. And they're all in silos. But the infinite can't be in silos. Remove the silos. Oh, now you're beginning to see that you have to go from here. Now you begin to say, oh, this is derivative. This technology, whatever's going on here, can't get that. So you're beginning to now finally get, forget the color, this is becoming visible now. That's what's going on. And it's holding us back from going into this space. This is Krishna and this is Arjuna. This is Jesus and this is the everyday person. I am the way, the Logos speaking, for example. We're just throwing out a Buddha, enlightenment, speaking to the people here. Oh, right? But then you say, but no, something is missing here. How do I get to there? How do I go from here to there? No, you don't go from here to there. You're already there. I know it's a little crowded. This is not over there. It's holding. So now you've got a more evolved picture that informationized technology couldn't be without being. These are stages. Well, wow. In my own work over 60 years, I was teaching here when I began. Naturally, I was a logician, an ontologist, teaching. But gradually I began to see as I went deeper into these first philosophies that something is going on here. And when I began to see that, oh, the infinite is unified, that was a breakthrough. It's a source, and it's the infinite by its nature. It's in us. We're being held. And so this model here, it's not very clear here. Something is missing. So nothing can be without being. And so it begins to emerge that the single bracket technology and culture and life is situated and being held and couldn't be without the source. And so this now is, okay, this is the source. And so if you go to locate us now, Arjuna, now we can see the two codes. It wasn't evident at first, but when this began to dawn, you began to see it here. It looks as though, how do I go from here to there? So no, you're not going from here to there. You're already there. The law here is A is A. This is an axiom. Aristotle got that. If you didn't have that, you can't have thought. If you don't have a fixed meaning, an identity, this is identity. A is A. And it means either A or not A. It has an excluded middle. And it can't be both A and not A, non-contradiction. There are laws here. But when you get into here, you begin to see every A is A. Every A is A. That's a deeper principle. How would you write that? If you had to write a formula capturing all of this, that gets it right there. Every A is A. Every A is A. That's a double entendre. So logicians love to, as mathematicians, love to get the most fundamental symbolism that captures the intercode situation. So every X is X. And what happens is that people generally do this. They download the double brackets into the single bracket and capture it and try it. This is perverse. I got the double brackets you're talking about. No, you're blowing it. That's a no-no. This is more accurate. I know that's a lot I'm presenting. But if you keep that in mind now, this should be much more accessible. So let's begin. Because again, Brahman, in this case, you can say Yahweh, Allah, Brahman, Tao. Oh, but Brahman is the infinite source. Vishnu is one power of Brahman, the create, the Genesis, whatever you want to call it, the preserver. So these are already encoded within. The unum and the pluribus already are connected within the infinite. The infinite is infinitely one and infinitely diverse. So Vishnu and Shiva are not at odds. They're one in a profound alterity. It's a different calculus altogether. Unum means infinite, unity means infinite pluribus unum. So it's not poly, mono or poly. Is it one theology or polytheism? That's binary logic. But here, Brahman is infinitely one and manifesting in diversity. So the reason I'm bringing up Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, is Krishna is the incarnation of Vishnu. That's who we're dealing with here. Shiva, the Lord of dance, process, becoming, destruction, deconstruction. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Krishna enters the world. That's a deep ontology. So you please take over. Okay? I love it. Individuals who love to read with a good voice. Because it's being recorded in sound, needs to come out. So I need readers who can project. Okay? I would like everyone to take a turn. So to get the setting here of the Gita, I don't want to all these confusing names and all that. I want to make it simple. Because the main characters are Krishna and Arjuna. The voice of Krishna and Arjuna, which is us, in the middle of a crisis. And Dhritarashtra, it's hard to even pronounce the name, is a blind king, and he's bypassing his own son, Duryodhana, who is an evil, tyrannical, selfish son, to give it to Arjuna and his family. Right? So there's a battle now for the throne. And I don't want to go to all of the epics. This is just one little portion of Mahabharata, a great epic, and this is like one little sliver of it that we're jumping in to this particular story of this moment in history, which captures the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. This is a much larger epic. So the blind king, battle is going on now. It's going to be a showdown for who's going to get the throne, because the king, who's blind, justice is blind, is giving it to Arjuna, his nephew, not to his own son, which is already going to be in terms of rivalry. But the son is evil and unworthy, and he's bypassing him. And Duryodhana is doing everything. Might is right. Come and take it, So I'm not giving the throne up. You want it, Arjuna? And Pandava boys, you come and get it. Take it. Right? So there's a showdown over righteousness. Who has the righteous? So there's a justice of good against evil. Battle is going on. And Sanjaya is the attendant to the blind king, but he has kind of telescopic vision to hear the dialogue way on the battlefield. So he's reporting to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra said, "What's going on?" And Sanjaya, so just to get the characters, the voice, so you're not confused, Sanjaya is reporting to the blind king, who is trying to understand, standing up on the plateau, and the battlefield is below, and all the waves of fags, the conch shells which you sound before you charge is going on, and this is happening. And so here we are, page 4, chapter 1. You got the scene. I'm trying to pick up, watch carefully now, the two languages of where you are. There's a meltdown taking place, starting around verse 21, chapter 1, page 4. Would someone start to read this for us? Volunteer. And project the voice. I know you're all anxious to speak. Please help me out. And O King of the earth, said to Krishna, a chariot between the two armies, that I may look on these men at the ready, eager for battle, with whom I must engage. in this great enterprise of war. Reader, please, 23. Please.
I desire to observe those who are assembled here to fight, wishing to please in battle the evil-minded. How do you say that?
Dhritarashtra. D, just say D. The D guy. It's important to have the same translation. That's what I'm saying. I ordered a text with a translation by Johnson, Oxford Press. Did you know that? Is that not clear? No? Okay, I tried to contact you yesterday, but the Moodle was not on. The Bionics list didn't open up, and I couldn't send you a text. I was saying, I'll give you a picture of the book. Right? Does anyone have the book Oxford? No? Translated by Johnson? It should be posted on the Moodle page. Does anyone have this translation? Oh, I beg your pardon? You do? Okay, 23. Will you try reading it for us? Verse 23.
I would see those assembled here, straining to fight, eager to serve in battle.
Duryodhana.
I don't know.
Dhritarashtra. Okay. Duryodhana is the evil guy, okay, who might is right, he's a tyrant, his son. Dhritarashtra is the blind king. So it's Dhritarashtra's evil-minded son. Duryodhana is the bad guy. And Arjuna with his Pandava brothers are rightfully thrown. Does anyone recognize this interpretation, this translation? Others have this too? Or are you the only one in the class? You have it? Okay. So read a few verses for us, please. You're doing well.
Addressed thus by Arjuna, O Bharata, Krishna halted the great chariot between the two armies. In front of Bhishma and Drona, all the lords of the earth, and said, Look, Partha, these are the Kuras, all of them together.
So these are big names here, Bhishma and Drona. Keep going. It'll fall into place soon. You want to listen up to basically what Arjuna is saying as he falls apart and what Krishna is going to pick up. Keep going, please.
There Arjuna saw, standing there around, fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, fathers-in-law, and companions in both armies. Looking at all these arrayed, Arjuna, the son of Kunti, was overcome by deep compassion, and in despair he said, Krishna, when I see these, my own people, eager to fight on the brink, my limbs grow heavy and my mouth is parched. My body trembles and my hair bristles. My bow, Sanjeeva, falls from my hand. My skin's on fire. I can no longer stand. My mind is reeling.
Pause. Thank you. You're doing well. But notice what's going on. He's in a physiological meltdown. He's feeling it in his body. Notice my limbs grow weak. He's just falling apart. My mouth is parched. My body trembles. My hair bristles. My bow, his trophy, it has a name, falls from my hand. Very symbolic. The warrior, the head warrior, just dropped his weapon on the battle. My skin is on fire. He's burning. I can't even stand up now. He's losing it all. He's in a complete life collapse. My mind is reeling. There it is. His psyche, his mind is just reeling in confusion. Why? Because he sees his own kin, his own family and teachers and friends on the other side. And as a warrior, he says, no, it breaks his whole warrior ethic. Fight no matter what. No, I can't do this. Next reader, please. 31. Listen, follow to the symbolism of his meltdown. Okay, he's having a life meltdown. Please keep going. Yes, next. Take turns.
I see evil omens, Krishna. Nothing good can come from slaughtering one's own family in battle. I foresee it. I have no desire for victory, Krishna, or kingship, or pleasures. What should we do with kingship? With kingship, Govinda. What are pleasures to us? What is life?
Pause. Thank you. Notice Krishna has many names. It can confuse you. Govinda. Right? Why? Because he's in the fractal space. The boundless alternative is fractal name. It's not one name. It's not identity. So it's going to confuse. He's going to recognize Krishna has many different guises, many fractal names. But he asks the ultimate question of all philosophy. that Socrates was asked. What's up with what pleasure? Is that the motive for the human being? What is life? What's the meaning of life? What the hell is going on? Why am I here? He's facing the ultimate question of who am I? What's going on? What is life? Keep going. Same reader.
Men whose sake we desire kingship, enjoyment, and pleasures are precisely those drawn for this battle, having abandoned their lives. Teachers, fathers, sons, as well as grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and kinsmen. I have no desire to kill them. I just sit down.
Another name for Krishna. Keep going.
No, they are killers themselves. No, not for the lordship of the three worlds, let alone the earth.
So even though they're evil and unworthy, that's the word, unworthy, he still feels it's morally wrong to kill his own people. Keep going.
Where's the joy for us in Ardana in destroying
Dhritarashtra's people.
Having killed these murderers, evil would attach itself to us.
So he's seeing that to one to other. He's beginning to see that he's in a moral crisis. His whole warrior crisis has fallen apart in terms of what it's right or wrong. And he's now questioning the whole question, what is the right thing to do? Even though they're murderers, can I kill my own people? He says 35, I have no desire to kill them, my own family. So the whole structure, his worldview is crashed right now. Keep going, so same reader. 37.
It follows, therefore, that we are not required to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra. They are our own kinsmen. Having killed our own people, how could we be happy?
So well-being and happiness is over if you perform an evil act of killing another human being, especially your own people. Right? So in other words, that's a moral question. Ethics is gone. The ethics that he has had so far is over. And he doesn't know what is the right thing to do in this crisis. Read a little further, please.
Even if, because their minds are overwhelmed by greed, they cannot see the evil incurred by destroying one's own family and the degradation involved in the peril of a friend. How can we be so ignorant as not to recoil from this world? Evil incurred by destroying one's own family is plain to see.
Thank you. And so this is now bringing out, even though they're ignorant, remember, Socrates, think of Socrates, I'm bringing in the global picture, evil is ignorance. You don't understand the logos. And they're going to give him the death penalty, Socrates, for teaching the weird logos philosophy. So what is right? It can't be. So he's questioning the foundation of ethics. The evil incurred by destroying one's own people, one another, do unto one, right, is plain to see. Now, who is seeing that Arjuna, where you're locating, as Arjuna is crashed, but why? Because something is opening up his conscience. What is the conscience? Deeper space, his higher self is peeking through and is getting and is grabbing, follow your own conscience. Is your conscience, the consciousness here, or is it some deeper truth or moral space that's beginning to dawn, but he doesn't yet figure it out, right? I'm helping us go fast forward here. To kill your own family, it's plain to see. We're going to jump, he talks about, then the whole culture is going to fall apart, and then he ends. I'll take it from here, right? Go into 45 and 44. For people whose family laws have been obliterated, we have heard that a place in hell is certain. In other words, if you start to unravel the structures of the culture, right, but that's what's happening. His whole warrior culture is being deconstructed. Oh, damn, he says, oh, Himini. You're about to perpetuate a great evil out of sheer greed. What is the motive? I want the kingdom. I want the pleasure. I want the wealth. For the kingdoms and pleasures. We're prepared to kill our own people. In other words, what is the motive for life? He doesn't know the own motive yet. Krishna is going to teach him ethics now. Krishna's teaching and coaching in yoga is teaching him who is a human being, what is the right life, what is true meaning, and what is the right way to be. So 46, Arjuna ends it all and sets the stage for the dialogue for chapter 2, which we'll enter now. He says in 46, it would be better for me if Dhritarashtra's armed member to kill me in battle. Unresisting, unarmed, non-violence. Having spoken this on the field of conflict, on the battlefield. Remember, which conflict? There's always an intra-code conflict, right, on the battlefield, but there's an inter-code conflict. Very important. It's important to get the poetry, right? There's a conflict within Arjuna. There's a war within himself, between himself and the self. It's beginning to dawn on him. Who am I? What? Right? So on the field of battle, there are two battles. The external battle, literally, of the fratricidal war. But there's a mirror for an inner battle. And this is going to get clearer. In every chapter we go, you'll see, face the inner battle between the self, small s, and capital S self. So Arjuna sank down into the chariot, letting his bow slip away, and his mind broken in a meltdown. Right, where he said is distracted with grief. That's not more powerful. He had a complete mental breakdown at this point. And so now, this is the beginning of philosophy. Socrates was, until you face the ignorance, you thought you know, but when you realize you don't know, and you get that rational humility, you're ready for inquiry. So chapter 2 begins. Let's do it. How's the time? Okay, we're fine. So next reader, same text if you recognize. Do you have the same text? We're starting chapter 2. Sanjaya now is a guide on the side of the hill telling the king, Dhritarashtra, shut up. I'm sorry. Reporting Dhritarashtra set up now. Krishna is about to enter and start the teaching. Go for it, please.
Then Krishna, the destroyer of the demon Madhu, spoke these words to the dejected Arjuna, who, eyes blurred and brimming with tears, was so overcome by pity. The Lord said, Arjuna, where do you get this weakness from at a moment of crisis? A noble should not experience this. It does not lead to heaven. It does not become true. Abandon the space. Arjuna said, destroyer of Madhu, how can I shoot arrows at
Krishna.
And Drona?
Those are two of the elders in the family, yeah.
When they should be honored. Better to eat begged food among common people than to kill such worthy teachers. For having killed my teachers who desire legitimate worldly ends, I should be consuming food with blood. We do not know which is better for us, that we should overcome
Dhritarashtra.
men standing there for us, or that they should overcome us. For if we were to kill them, we should have no desire to go on living. My inner being is disabled by that vice of dejection. My mind is bewildered as to what is right. I ask you, which would be better? Tell me for certain. I am your student. I have come to you for help.
Thank you. Let's pause a moment. Would someone try to translate? What do you hear? You take over now. Start doing the translation. What do you hear? So Sanjaya is reporting that Krishna, the destroyer of the demon Madhu, you always find these high beings, like Shiva is dancing on the demon. What is defeating the evil force, right? Madhu, right? The demons, the destroyer of ignorance and evil. Krishna spoke these words. Which words? Single bracket words or double bracket words? Watch out. To the dejected, that means a broken down Arjuna. These words are not as strong as they should be. He's not just bummed out. Arjuna, he's broken. Whose eyes blurred and bring him in tears. The guy's crying. He's overcome with dejection and breakdown of his life in a crisis. So Krishna begins a teaching. Arjuna, come on, where do you get this weakness? In the middle of this crisis? A noble should not experience this. It doesn't lead to heaven, it leads to disgrace. You're going to be humiliated and disgraced in front of the whole culture. No impotence, weakness, in other words, lack of, where's your power? No impotence, Partha. It doesn't become you. It doesn't look good. Abandon these base inner weakness. Is Krishna being honest? What is Krishna saying here? So I'm inviting you to interpret. Get up, incinerator of the fool. You're a Rambo. You're a hero. right? He's saying, come on, knock it off. Don't, people are going to think badly of you. Stop becoming. Don't be weak. Pause, right? It's important. So Krishna hasn't even begun the technology of yoga yet. This is all warm-up, okay? He's going to try he's in here and say, come on, he's the coach. He says, come on, what are you doing? He's going to try that. Krishna is not, don't hold Krishna to that. Krishna has to go through many steps of coaching to get Arjuna to face inner battle, to renovate his life and to get the technology. So that's just a warning label. Krishna is playing, not lightly, but he's taking stage. He's trying to test him with his own culture. What would your culture say? Someone in your culture. Say, come on, stop that, pick up your weapon, right? But Krishna is double talking. Careful, okay? So look over again what Krishna said to him. He's just using ordinary psychology first stage, but that's not where he's going to. This is just beginning. It's not going to be chapter 3. After chapter 2, when you get to verse 39 in chapter 2, that's when you say, okay, enough of the folk wisdom, pop wisdom, let's do the yoga. Verse 39, it's exciting what's coming. Okay? But he's going to rehearse ordinary academic philosophy with him. Sankhya philosophy theory, right? Socrates and Plato. The soul cannot die. Socrates is about to drink the hemlock. It's the same thing. He's saying the soul is not a physical thing. It's not in space and time. Why? Because in rational space with all the forms and mathematics and logic and these eternal principles and axioms in the world of forms, that's the soul. That's a rational being. The soul is a rational part of us, and the body is the physical in the space and time. You can't kill the soul, dude. He's using those basic philosophy that is well known. The soul is immortal. It cannot die. It's being. It's not becoming. The body is becoming. And so Krishna is going to do the Heraclitus and Parmenides shift between, if it's being, you can't kill it. If it's becoming, you can't kill it. Krishna's going to play. So in other words, if you've done the ontology, but fine. If you come, I've done all of that Socrates, Plato, soul, body stuff. I know that, right? You're going to have to learn that in one page. Understand what Krishna is just playing with him. So, did you do your homework, Arjun? Did you even think about the soul can't die, you can't kill it? And you can cut my body, but you can't cut me. Because you can cut what is in space and time, but what is not. You can't touch this. You know the Mike Hammer song, Can't Touch This? That's the soul, you can't touch. And that echoes across the planet, right? You can't kill the soul, it's immortal. That's not Krishna's teaching. But he's just saying, Arjuna, did you even do any baby philosophy to even understand academic theory of the soul and the body and the two realms, right? And then Krishna said, okay, he didn't get it, but let's move on. Let's not do the real deal. 39, let's solve your problem now. So let's go a little fast forward. So Krishna is playing, role playing of the pop wisdom will tell him, you're going to be disgraced. People are going to say bad things about you. You're not going to do very well on TikTok, right? So come on, get on with the fight, right? But Krishna is playing with him. He knows that's not answering. So destroyer of Madhu, destroyer of the enemy, Arjuna comes back. Arjuna is fighting back now. When Krishna said, don't be weak, get up and fight. So 4, destroyer of Madhu, which is Krishna, destroyer of the enemy. How can I shoot arrows at my own teachers? It's better in ethics now. It's better if I would just beg food among common people than to kill such worthy. For having killed my teachers, who desire, they have a legitimate need to get the kingdom. It'll be smeared with blood. And we do not know which is better for us. Again, ethics. We don't know which is right. That we should overcome Dhritarashtra's men who are evil. Duryodhana is an evil person standing there before us, or we should drop our weapons and let them have their way. Because it's either or now, it's ultimate now. We're in an ultimate moment in history. If we were to kill them, we should have no desire to go on living. It's suicide. If I kill them, I'm done. And if I let them do, I'm done. So I'm in a lose-lose situation. If I kill them, it's curtains for me. And if I don't fight, it's curtains for me. Notice that, he's in a lose-lose situation. And Krishna is very quick to say, no, you're in a win-win situation. Check it out. You can't lose here. So he says, my inner being is disabled. In other words, he's confessing, I'm crashed. I have a total meltdown of my life by the vice of depression and existential breakdown. My mind is blown away and confused about my ethics and what is right and who I am. I ask you, which is better? Now, this is easy. Arjuna is saying, give me I want certainty. It's like someone in America now saying, I don't know what ethics, you know. We've got Duryodanas in the culture, and might is right, and what is right, and so we've got Martin Luther King, and Gandhi, and novellas, and Quakers. Which is right? Tell me certain. I'm your student. Single bracket or double bracket. I've come to you for help, Krishna. Right? Teach me. Okay, so Krishna begins. Next reader, please. 8. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was number 8. Though I should obtain prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth, and even master of it, I can't imagine it would dispel the depression I'm in right now, which withers my senses. I'm collapsed. So Sanjaya, check. Next reader, please.
And having spoken thus to Krishna, to Govinda, having said, I will not fight, Arjuna, the incendiary of the world.
There's a silence. So that's a prerequisite to starting to educate. Right? That's why we started this session saying there are 2 kinds of silence. Silence there and silence here. So he's collapsed. His inner worldview is melted down and he's silent, right? And he's ready to be instructed. So there are 2 kinds of silences. You got that. Keep going, please. Same reader.
Through Dhritarashtra, between the 2 armies, Krishna, shadow of a smile, spoke these words to that dejected man.
Notice that Krishna with a shadow of a smile. Why? Is he smirking? Or is he delighted that this Arjuna has reached the point of learning by having meltdowns? So Krishna is pleased, right? Keep going.
You utter wise words, yet you have been warning those who should not be warned. The truly wise cannot be living and the dead. There never was a time when I was not, or you, or these rulers, nor will there ever be a time when we shall cease to be all of us. Just as within this body, the embodied self passes through childhood, youth, and old age, and so it passes to another body. The wise man is not limited by this. But contacts with matter, son of give rise to cold and pleasure and pain. They come and go. They are permanent and should endure. You should endure them. For these things, fall among men. Do not perturb that wise man. Pleasure and pain are the same. He is ready for immortality.
Pause. Okay, could someone translate what, put in your own words? What is Krishna saying? Again, these are preliminary things. You utter wise words. You know, you're wise. You got pop wisdom. Notice the words. Which words? Single bracket or double? What language? You utter wise words. Whisper words of wisdom. Let them be. That song. You know, whisper words of wisdom. What are wise words? What language are you in? You utter wise words. Yet there's duplicity. Or you've been mourning for those you shouldn't be mourned for. Socrates is saying the same thing. When he's about to get executed in the prison, in the Phaedo, it's called, that dialogue with the death scene, and his friends and students are all around him, and they're going crazy and pulling out their hair in despair that their teacher is going to die. And Socrates said, what's up with you? I'm not going to die. I has 2 meanings, I soul and I body. You can poison my body, but you can't touch me. Soul and body. This is all coming out right here. But that's not where Krishna is saying. He's not doing academic philosophy and ontology. He wants to end Arjuna's breakdown with yoga technology. That's going to come. So relating up to verse 39, he's going to review some of the early history of ontology. The language of being, you can't kill a soul. The language of becoming, well, if it's born, it's going to die. So what's the point? What is born is going to die if it's becoming. So what are you mourning about? Why are you breaking down over this? Don't you know baby ontology, Arjuna? Everyone should know this, right? So notice what Krishna very quickly is saying. You're mourning for something. You're not going to kill those teachers. You can't kill a soul. Why? 13. Just as within this body, the embodied passes through all the way. There's a core self, a substance that cannot die in the child, in the youth, in the old age. It's there. And then it dies and it can't go away. Being can't become non-being. So it's going to transcarnate. It's got to go somewhere because what is cannot be not be. Energy can be neither created nor destroyed. The wise person, single bracket wisdom, the everyday shouldn't be bewildered by this. However, 14, this is against Socrates and the whole European contacts with matter. Now you're not just in the spirit, you're in matter. You're going to the body now. When you get into the matter and the body, right, contacts with body give rise to the opposition, pain and cold and heat and all of these different oppositions that we make in the logic of identity. Is or isn't, pain or pleasure, good or bad, right? And all of the polar pairs, they give rise to polarity. Cold and heat, pleasure and pain, they come and go, Bharata. They're impermanent. In other words, the stuff of everyday culture, that logic, a binary logic, and when you get into matter and the logic of matter, single bracket, don't get put into that within the opposition. Stand back and watch it. For these things do not perturb the person who sees beyond the oppositions. Okay? Number 15 is already getting warmed up in pop wisdom for when you get into the yoga self. When you become a yogi, you won't be going through, trapped within the ego psychology of identity and opposition. But that person who's going to be wise, for whom pleasure and pain is the same. It's like the Stoic. Don't get pulled into the everyday oppositional bipolarity. Stay steady. In the middle of the swing, that person is ready for immortality, cannot die. He's quickly giving a pop wisdom that same reader, continue, please.
For the non-existent, there is no coming into existence. For the existent, there is no lapsing into non-existence. The division between them is observed by those who see the underlying nature of things. But know that on which all this is stretched is indestructible. No one can destroy this imperishable. It is just these bodies of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal embodied self that are characterized as coming to an end. Therefore, fight.
Thank you. Could someone translate that? We're getting a fast-forward course in ontology. This is across the planet. This is pure Socrates and Plato. The world of the soul is being, the world of the body is becoming. And Krishna is pointing out, right, the law of ontology. The number 16 is classic, East and West ontology. And science. For the non-existent, there's no coming into existence. What is not cannot come to be. You can't, ex nihilo, you can't have a world out of nothing. Being can't come from nothing. And for the existent, namely something that has being, there is no lapsing into non-existent. The being cannot not be. That's huge. That's why energy can neither be created nor put in that language. It can neither be created or destroyed. Don't you got that? Don't you get that baby ontology? What exists cannot die, can stop, and what something can't come from nothing. And for the existent, there's no lapsing into non-existent. That's an axiom of ontology. The division of these has been observed by those who understand the deeper ontology of things. Now he's hinting at the Brahman space. He's rehearsing pop wisdom, and he's gently warming up to show that, didn't you learn your basic baby ontology about existence and non-existence? And so quickly, again, the poetry is beginning to come on 70, but know that which is stretched, all this is stretched on the source field that Krishna is speaking from. All the appearances of everyday culture and life worlds and all of that is stretched upon the presence, the unam, which is not destructible. No one can destroy this one. And that's the yogic self. Okay? It's just these bodies that are of the indestructible, immeasurable, eternal, embodied self. It's exactly what Socrates is saying. When the soul is embodied, you can kill the body, but you can't kill the soul. Embodiment. That are characterized as coming to an end. So pick up your weapon and fight. Right? Notice, please note, Krishna is very pragmatic. He's not just trying to do theory. He said, you got to act in the world. And Arjuna is going to be really disturbed by this. Because when he said, pick up your weapon and fight, question mark, and I ask you to, you might ask, which weapon? Right? There are two weapons. The actual weapon, the sword. Those who live by the sword die by the sword. But Jesus says, I'm bringing a sword. Whoa, that's double talk. Which sword are you talking about? The weapon of inquiry. Use your inquiry. Become a critical thinker. Wake up, dude. Right? Pick up your weapon and fight. So when Krishna say that, you can read it this way. Okay, Krishna is urging Arjuna on with the battle, right? Or he can be invoking him, start doing the real critical thinking now. Become an inquiring student, a critical thinker, and start to fight back. Fight for your intelligence, right? So the two languages are resonating ambiguously right now. Continue, next reader. Take it. We're going to stop soon.
Anyone who believes this is a killer, and anyone who thinks this kill, they do not understand. It does not kill, it is not killed. It is not born, it never dies. Being, it will never again cease to be. It is unborn, invariable, eternal, immutable. It is not killed when the body is killed.
Okay, so that's Socrates is saying almost verbatim the same thing, right? The soul, it never again cease to be. It is unborn, it can't begin, because a true being can't become, as Parmenides too. Invariable, it's steady, eternal, all that, primeval, source, primitive, on the ground floor. It is not killed when the body is killed. You can poison my body, but you can't touch my true self. Keep going.
Partha, how can that man who knows it to be indestructible, invariable, unborn, and imperishable bring about the death of anyone? Whom does he kill? Just as a man casting off worn-out clothes takes up others that are new, so the embodied self, casting off its worn-out bodies, goes to other new ones. Blades do not pierce it, fire does not burn it, waters do not wet it, and the wind does not parch it.
Pause. Okay, in other words, again, your categories are messed up because the soul cannot be cut. It's not in physical space and time. It's in the eternal space. It's out of body. The body is, you can cut the body. So he's pointing out the ontology of category mistakes. When Socrates is trying to teach his friends in the prison, when you say I die, there's a category mistake because I, soul, can die. Category mistake, but I, body, is being poisoned. So it says, blades don't pierce it. Fire can't burn it. Waters can't wet it. The wind can't parch it. It's not a physical thing. So how are you going to kill a soul? Keep going.
It cannot be pierced, it cannot be burned, it cannot be wetted, it cannot be parched. It is invariable, everywhere, fixed, immovable, eternal.
Okay, that's all Socrates and Plato also. And that's also in the Christian tradition. The soul is immortal. Salvation, liberation, right? Eternal life. Okay, that's echoing across the different first philosophies. Keep going, you're doing well.
Said to be imperceptible, unthinkable, and immutable. Knowing it to be so, you should not therefore grieve.
Did you get that? That's already saying there's a different language here. He was doing pop wisdom, but suddenly he's beginning to say, it is said to be imperceptible. You can't perceive it. Unthinkable, you can't predicate it. Immutable, knowing it to be so. What knowing? Single bracket knowing or a wisdom? Knowing the self. You should not therefore grieve and have a breakdown. Your whole breakdown is a category mistake between the two realities. Keep going.
Even if you believe that it is regularly born and regularly dead, you should not grieve for it, great arm. Death is inevitable for those who are born. For those who are dead, birth is just as certain. Therefore, you must not grieve for what is ineluctable.
Pause. Do you realize what just happened? Krishna just switched to the other ontology. Is it being? Shouldn't grieve. Is it becoming? Even if you're regularly born, in other words, if you're in the space and time arising and ceasing, then death is inevitable. To be born is to die. Because the opposites are so connected, birth and death cannot be separated. So even if you subscribe to it's all becoming, Forget about being. I'm going to go with Heraclitus. It's regularly born and regularly dead. You shouldn't grieve because death is inevitable. That means what is born is inevitably has death inscribed within it for those who are born. For those who are dead, birth is just as certain. And Socrates is saying to come into being is to come from unbeing. So if death is unbeing, then what allows the self to be born is come from what? Something can only become from what is not. If you say the leaf is yellow, or if the leaf becomes brown, it was green, it becomes what it was not. So becoming is a cycle between what is not and what is. And if that's what you can say the self is, why are you grieving? Because it's ineluctable. It's fatalism. Death is certain for one who is born. So if it's being, you shouldn't grieve. If it's becoming, you shouldn't grieve. So what's your problem? Keep going, and we'll stop in a moment. I know time is almost. Oh no, time is up.
Broader beings.
No, we'll stop. We'll stop. Thank you. Okay, this is warm up. Okay, go for it. Chapter 2, chapter 3. Look out for verse 39. Yoga begins. Thank you. Have a wonderful life.